Hello friends, Shwetank here. Have you felt stuck when you're writing the product requirement document? Now, you have discussed about what your idea is, what do you really want to make. You also connect to the purpose of designing this product. You understand the pain points of the customers, right? So you know all of that. But have you been really struggling about how do you start writing the product requirement documents? Well, I struggled as well. What happens is when you start defining what a product is all about, there are all sorts of ideas come to your mind, and then it's sometimes too distracting as well. That you need to think about your legal requirements. You need to think about your business supplier requirements, or even small things like making an agreement. But what it means for all those actions that you take, that you need to streamline your thoughts and then come back um, with a concise way of collecting all those information that you have been processing so far and shape them into something called as a product requirement document. But why do we struggle? So when I was starting to design my own product, I was looking at multiple requirements of how the customers are going to use it, whether there will be a button, there'll be a physical button, there'll be touch, there'll be a battery, whether we need a charging port for that specific device that I was making, and what kind of technologies that this device is going to use to communicate to another device, and so on and so forth. So the starting point of all this is categorization. First, you need to look at how a user is going to use it. So that's one way of starting the product requirement document. However, there are many other ways. I would recommend that you start with how do you want your users are going to use your product in reality. So try to wear the hat of a user and then see if you are a user of the product that you are designing, you're trying to offer to your customers, how would you use it? That clarifies a lot of doubt. And when you start wearing the hat of the user, you see a very different perspective, and that shapes your thoughts, and then you go about it. For example, I was designing this device which could communicate with a mobile phone. So then I had to look at what are the various ways that the device can communicate with the phone. For example, there are things like they can communicate with a mobile phone these days with many others, many different measures. Like you can connect them with a wire, like a USB. You can also connect them with other interfaces like maybe a Bluetooth or maybe a Wi-Fi. And when you start little bit going into implementation, what you do is in the product requirement document, you don't need to necessarily write down the technologies, but write down that as a hint that you think that perhaps at some point in time down the line, you're going to think about these technologies. So write down those elements as hints and start writing your product requirement document, thinking about breaking down smaller requirements into even smaller pieces one by one, and then think about in the user lifecycle journey how are they going to fit together. As I just mentioned, that I need to be able to communicate to the mobile device with a wireless interface. That is a requirement. Now, what that wireless interface could be, that could be your design details, but just write down that you would want some kind of a wireless interface here, because you need to be able to not looking for constantly fiddling about whether you need a wire. You can't, you probably do not want your customers, your users to keep a wire in the pocket if the device is tiny, right? So that's about it. That's one way of thinking about how in reality you would associate with the user's pain point. So if there is a wire, then there'll be a pain point there. The user is going to figure out where am I going to fit that wire. So why not have a wireless interface? But when you have a wireless interface, then it suddenly kicks into your brain that, oh, if I have a wireless interface, where the power is going to be drawn from, what is my power source of powering the device. So this is basically a story which continues like a flow of a stream, and then you start connecting one requirement with the other, and that's how you start writing your requirements. Why you need this, so that the customer can do that using some interface or some methodology. This is perhaps a smallest bottom line of starting to write product requirement documents. Thank you very much.